The following segment is sponsored by Food City.
Welcome into championship week for the college football catch-up for the Stateline Sports Reporters podcast. A big week. None of our teams are playing, but a big week in college football nonetheless.
Tennessee would be if they didn't have that clunker at Arkansas.
You know,
But
would be,
can't
could
turn
be,
back the
should
clock,
be.
can you?
A lot
I
of
don't know.
disappointment.
It's a fun one, though.
It is.
It's
There's
kind of
some
a
big
confusing
games.
week, too,
Yeah.
because it could shake things up tremendously.
There are a lot of question marks. Yeah. To set the stage right now, Tennessee is the 9 seed slated to play at Ohio State. There are 5 teams ahead of them that will be playing this weekend. Depending on what happens, you could see some people drop below, see Tennessee get that home playoff. That's obviously what we're hoping for. We want to head to Neyland to cover a playoff game. We'll see if that happens.
That would be ideal. I can't imagine that place in a home playoff environment.
I know.
The biggest game they've ever had there.
I think right now they're
arguably.
being robbed in the rankings. I think they should be ahead of Ohio State. That might be personal hatred towards Ohio State. But I think after that loss to Michigan, they should have dropped further.
Yeah.
That's an ugly loss to Michigan.
It is really ugly, which I think should matter, which is why also we're not talking about Alabama, but that loss at Oklahoma should have been a death sentence for their playoff hopes, but they're still in. Anywho, yeah, so that loss to Michigan is ugly, and I think it deserved to drop them a little bit lower, maybe flip. I'd be fine if it was flipped.
So would I.
Tennessee at 8,
yeah.
Ohio State 9, home game at Neyland. Now they're going to need help.
They got some help to get them in here.
They got a lot of help to get in.
Let's see if they can get some help this week.
Get a second dose of help. Couple games we're eyeing.
Yeah. We're going to start off with one of the games we're eyeing. I'm specifically paying attention to. My Tigers, some way, somehow, by the way of Cole Syracuse Orange, secured their spot in the ACC Championship, taking on number 8 SMU.
Yeah, and we just talked about this briefly before we got on, and I was saying potentially I think it depends on how the cards shake out, but I think Tennessee might want to be rooting for Clemson in this game. Because if they beat SMU, I think SMU will drop and open up that 8. Everyone will shift up a spot, and Tennessee would get a home game at 8 if no one else lost. If everything stayed like this, Oregon won.
The confusing spot when you get into all of that is who gets the buys and who doesn't. Because if Clemson wins, the ACC loses their bye.
Yeah.
So that also shifts things.
And it does, but then Clemson would likely probably be the last team in. I would say they'd probably be 12 if they won. And it would drop SMU out because SMU hasn't played anyone and they already have a loss to BYU. If SMU loses, they're out.
And I don't think that they should be.
So I think it puts Clemson at the bottom.
I'm just going to say I don't think that they should be. I understand the ACC gets a whole lot of hate. I'm not going to say that the ACC is as strong top to bottom as the SEC. I think that would be delusional to say. Right. However, I do think that the ACC has a lot of strong teams, and I feel like a lot of times they're underlooked and undervalued. SMU's 11-1 right now. Their only loss is early season to BYU. If they lose in this championship game, they're getting punished for losing when they should. What they should do is, regardless, if SMU loses, Bama gets bumped.
Yeah. By clinching a spot in the conference title game should not hurt you in any way, shape, or form.
Unless your name is Georgia, because why is Georgia even there? Georgia should have lost last week, and that would have, a loss would have for sure secured their,
Well, that's another point, too, is that when you're talking about the strength of the ACC, Georgia Tech beat Miami and Georgia. Almost Georgia. 8 overtimes?
8 overtimes. Me and Kristen were, a whole group of us you were there, all staring at the TV, watching the TV. I was pulling hard for Georgia Tech.
Yeah. So it's like, that's another ACC team, and then Syracuse had a 9-win year. There's a lot of decent teams.
That's what I'm saying. And everyone wants to crap on the ACC.
Yeah. And so there's a narrative there that the ACC is not good, which obviously it's not as strong as the Big Ten or the SEC, but it's not that far off.
The Big Ten
It's
to some
not that
degree.
far off, to
The
some
Big Ten
degree.
to some degree, because I want to see Indiana take on ACC teams. Because I think Indiana's overranked too.
Yes.
There's my
Indiana
hot take.
is.
And I don't think that's a hot take at all.
I believe so. I believe that is correct. But back to the original point, SMU should not be
Out if
penalized for it, but they will be.
Yes.
If they lose, they're out. There's no question.
There are a lot of
but
people. There are a lot of people that don't think SMU is going to lose this game regardless. Clemson should have won last week. They threw an interception at the end when they. I mean, I shut the game off with the 2-minute warning. I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, I don't need to ruin my Saturday and watch Clemson lose to South Carolina. I did that my last game as a student. Didn't need to do it again.
Yep.
So that was kind of heartbreaking. But it's kind of tough because, like, this is SMU's first time in the ACC championship game. Obviously, first season in the ACC. Crazy that they got here, but at the same time, is it really crazy? Because the money SMU draws in, SMU's about to be up there with the big dogs. With the donor money they're pulling in with NIL, SMU's going to be up there for a while now.
Yeah.
Clemson needs to be like, this is our home. We've done this however many times.
Right.
Too many times to lose, essentially. Clemson needs to win.
And I think so. Are we in agreement though? If Clemson wins, it's a helper for Tennessee. It may not be the end all be all, but it might be help.
Yes, I think that it would help because I think regardless, SMU's dropping below 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even if they do sneak them in at the end, I think it gives Tennessee a spot up.
All right, we're going to shift on Big 12, Iowa State at Arizona State, 16 versus 15. Both teams 10-2. Both teams with a loss to Texas Tech at one point this season. We don't know that much about these two teams, right?
No, we don't, and I don't think this game really has much of an effect on Tennessee. Does it? Because whoever wins, who's losing the bye? Because it's whoever wins the SEC and the Big Ten, obviously. Where do the other two go?
It depends on if Boise wins tonight, and then who wins the ACC game, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. The new format, a little bit confusing. I enjoy it because there's a lot of,
what's Boise State even in?
Mountain.
But how does that get?
Don't ask me.
That doesn't make any sense, though. I don't know
because they're going to be one of the 4 highest ranked
teams.
Conference champions.
I don't think they should get a bye. So it should be whoever wins the ACC.
And in theory, it should be. But however, that's not.
In theory,
that's not how it works.
I know. So that's where this will have an effect because
who knows?
It depends on who gets. It really depends on who gets bumped out of that bye game. So I don't know. Both these teams are ranked below Tennessee, so whoever loses out, whoever wins is probably going to be. If they don't get the bye, they're going to be ranked below Tennessee regardless. So I don't know if this game affects them.
I don't know anything.
We'll know. We'll figure it out next year. We'll be more understanding.
This is the first year we're learning.
For real. There's some things that it just doesn't make sense. But anywho,
should be a good game. Regardless,
we don't know a lot about
clearly
these teams.
15-16 should, in theory, be evenly matched. In the research that I did, Arizona State seems to be a little more balanced as far as pass game, rush game, whereas Iowa State has 2 1,000-yard receivers, so they definitely run a more pass-heavy offense. Mm-hmm. So don't know how that plays in. I guess we'll see how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
All right. Big game in Atlanta. Number 5, Georgia. Number 2, Texas. Essentially a little home game for Georgia. Going to play that in Atlanta. Seems a little questionable.
That's where they always end up. Yes,
doesn't everybody just want to help Georgia out? Not me.
I think so. I think it's safe to say, though, if Georgia loses.
Oh, they're done.
Yeah. They're done. So that's why Tennessee wants Texas to win.
Tennessee wants Texas to win for sure.
That opens up a spot right there. So we might not even need to worry about the ACC game. If Texas beats Georgia,
However,
that might be all Tennessee needs.
let's hop back a few weeks. Let's take a look
And
back.
Do you think they would take Georgia over Tennessee because they beat them head-to-head with an extra loss?
No.
Okay.
I'm not even worried about that.
I didn't know if you're going down that path, and I go, hold on.
The path that I'm working on
Okay.
is the fact that we've seen these two play.
Mm-hmm.
And the cookie did not crumble Texas way.
No. They played awful.
Both teams really didn't play great until second quarter.
Yeah. And it was Quinn Ewers just had an awful game. I don't think we see that in a second.
I mean, Quinn Ewers may have had an awful game, but we're not going to discount the fact that Carson Beck also threw 3 interceptions in the win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it doesn't make it better.
No, not at all.
So,
but it should be a fun one. It would be something if Texas hops right into the SEC and wins the title in its first year.
I think the thing with Texas is everyone's Texas is number 2, but a lot of people question why Texas is number 2 given the strength of schedule compared to Georgia. Georgia's played a lot more heavyweight teams than Texas has.
Right. They have, and they beat them head to head. So there is an argument there, but I mean, at the end of the day, they still have only lost 1 game.
Oh, yeah.
So there's never going to be a perfect formula to all of this. So people could argue about it all day long, talk about it for hours. Let's just go see who wins on Saturday.
There you go. You said there's never going to be the perfect formula. Mm-hmm. However, I think number 3, Penn State, number 1, Oregon. There's someone that has not shown up historically in these big games.
Never.
They are always letting people down.
A couple decades. Penn State. Can they pull one off? I don't know.
Is Happy Valley going to stay happy?
I don't think so, because I think this Oregon team is legit. They have not lost anyone. You could argue they haven't had the toughest schedule, but neither has Penn State, and that's why we may see them at 1-3.
Oregon did beat Ohio State.
They did.
Close, but they beat them. Ohio State beat Penn State. Just saying. Just saying.
Just saying. This is another one that could have an impact on the Vols.
Could have.
Think
you said that you didn't think it would.
I didn't think it would.
Penn State would drop. I think Penn State could possibly drop.
They could drop. I don't know how far. If they lose this game, I don't think they drop any further than, say, 7.
Here's my thing.
Which may not have any effect on the Vols in that case.
And I get that. I do. My question mark here is, how do you have a Penn State team with a loss to Oregon, a loss to Ohio State, 2 losses, above Ohio State when they lost to Ohio State head-to-head? I would think you would need to drop them below.
They would, but so then Ohio State would bump up a little bit. Tennessee would bump up 1 spot. I think Penn State would still be probably 1 spot up ahead of Tennessee. Like a 6, 7, 8 kind of deal.
We'll see.
That's just my thought here. That's my thought process.
It's hard. You never know what's going to happen.
Based on what just happened here, I think what happens is, we'll just say SMU beats Clemson. Sorry.
This is before we're getting into the official picks, by the way. We're not getting into the official picks just yet.
We're putting a theoretical
He's doing
out.
his breakdown. Let's
if
hear
SMU beats Clemson,
yes.
SMU, I think they will put them in as having a bye.
They would have a bye, yes.
They would have a bye. Texas beats Georgia.
Oregon
drops
beats
below. Penn State. You're going to have Oregon and Texas at 1 and 2. You're going to have SMU as the 3rd team in, and then whoever they pick between Boise State and whoever wins this Big 12 game. There's your 4. Yep. Then you have outside who can't get a bye, Notre Dame.
Yep. Indiana, who they have up there.
Indiana, who
Yeah.
that's they're throwing the whole thing off, Indiana. So I think what happens is Penn State drops down to 7.
Georgia's the help.
Ohio
then.
State leapfrogs Penn State 6. So you go. I think this is how I would shape it. Notre Dame 5, Ohio State 6, Penn State 7, Tennessee 8, getting a home playoff game. Indiana drops to 9. And that's how we go from there.
We'll
the
see.
Big 12 winner gets the 10 seed. Alabama's 11. I don't know who's 12.
Miami.
I think Miami should be in.
I think Miami should not be in. That's a hot take from
Okay.
ACC fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because Miami should have a whole lot more losses than they do. Miami should have lost to
But
Cal.
they
Miami
didn't.
should have lost to Virginia Tech.
Shouldn't.
Because of the refs. Are you kidding? I'm not going to get into that.
The Virginia Tech game,
Yeah.
it was never a catch.
That's fine, but if you call it a catch, you can't reverse it. What about the Cal game?
I know.
That was targeting, plain as day. They called targeting on everything, and then they're not going to call targeting? No, we're not going to get into that.
She doesn't want Miami in.
I think that Cam Ward is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation.
See him play again. That's all.
That's fine. I think he is one of the best. He can play in a stupid bowl game.
He might not play if they play in a
Well,
stupid
that
bowl game.
sucks to suck then. I don't care. I'm going to stand on that. And that's a hot take from ACC fans because ACC fans want the ACC represented. Mm-hmm. You know what I want the ACC represented? I want Clemson in. I got my ornament on my Christmas tree that says, all I want for Christmas is a championship. At this point, I'll settle for an ACC one.
Okay, so we'll shift this theoretical. Clemson wins. They're in that 10 to 12 spot, right?
If Clemson wins, then Tennessee should automatically bump up because SMU is going to drop below.
SMU will probably be kicked out.
So we don't even have to go
and
through
that'll
the
leave the
mess that's
top
below.
4 for one of the Big 12 teams.
There you go.
So Clemson could be giving a gift to Arizona State or Iowa State if they win. Be like, you're welcome. You get a bye now.
There you go.
That could happen. And Tennessee. So I think it all lies on Texas beats Georgia, and if Clemson beats SMU, that's a double. Tennessee's automatically going to have a home game. Okay, we can move on now.
All right, there you go. We're going to move into the Lauren Locks. We're going to move into the Lauren Locks segment. As always, take everything with a grain of salt. Never know how we're truly going to do, especially this week. There's a lot of question marks around this week. We're going to start off with that deciding per Cole Johnson ACC championship game. Hear me out. Weird little line shift in this one. I did not like it. Clemson opened as 2-point favorites, and now SMU is 2.5-point favorites. And maybe I haven't been on Twitter enough, but I haven't seen anything on Clemson's side that some massive person got injured.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I guess everybody threw the book at SMU when they realized that Clemson was the favorites.
Might have been it. I don't know. That 4.5-point swing is pretty
brutal, significant.
I'd like to say in this spot, Clemson has the experience. You talked about it, how many of these ACC title games have they been in the last decade? And you'd like to say that has an effect, but I don't know. This
Clemson
SMU
put them orange britches on. They lost in the orange britches last week. Can't lose twice in them. My God.
SMU.
Learn how to show up.
They've been so good. They've been so good. I don't know, man.
Give me a pick. Come on.
Okay. SMU minus 2.5. I have to because I know you're going to go Clemson.
Well, yeah, obviously. I'm not going to pick against my Tigers. I may be delusional. I ride the Delulu train all the time.
Yeah.
SMU's going to ride their pony. They're bringing their pony to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And he's going to go home
bring
sad.
Good luck. Sad.
All right. Moving on to Big 12. Arizona State has remained 1.5-point favorites all week. That's not a whole lot of wiggle room there. It's essentially money line.
Basically a pick. I got no shoe in this game. I'm just going to go Arizona State because I went to an Arizona State game one time. How about that? Is that
There
a
you
good
go.
enough answer?
That's a good enough answer.
When Jaden Daniels was quarterback.
There you go.
When I didn't know he was going to be good.
A lot of people probably didn't at that point.
Like, they were awful. And I was like, this kid's not even good. And then he ends up being the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. All right. Good recruiting on my – good scouting on my end.
That's why he's on
Great
TV
scouting.
and not on the
Yeah,
team.
that's why I'm not in the personnel department.
All right. I'm also going to go with Arizona State. I got family that's rooting for Iowa State. I always like to, let's fight it out. So I'm going to pull for the opposite side. We're going to go for Arizona State on that one as well. Georgia, Texas opened even. Now Texas is the 2.5-point favorite in this game.
I think that's correct.
I feel
Georgia hasn't impressed me all year long.
No, they haven't impressed me either, but they did.
It's basically a home game,
won,
though, like you said, which scares me a little bit.
Sucks.
But I can't see. I think it's a split. I mean, Georgia got them the first time. I think Texas takes them this time. That's simple.
All right. Cole's rolling with Texas. My heart is in Texas. My brain tells me I'm going to roll with Georgia.
Okay,
Kristen's going to light her little Georgia Bulldogs candle, and they're going to somehow find a way to win, and I'm going to be irritated.
Got it.
All right. Last game, number 3, Penn State, number 1, Oregon. Oregon opened as 3-point favorites. They're now up to 3.5-point favorites.
Oregon. I'm going all favorites this week.
I'm going to punch the Oregon. I'm going to ride the Oregon train. We've got a little bit of discrepancy. Obviously, I'm riding with Clemson. I'm riding with Georgia, unfortunately. Yep. I'm riding with Texas, but I picked Georgia. But, we're going to go with Oregon because Penn State does not show up in the big games. I picked them earlier this year, got burned on it, not going to do it again.
No, stay away.
Happy Valley turns to Sad Valley on Saturday.
Correct. It should be a fun weekend.
Should be a fun weekend.
Shake
all right.
it all out.
That's going to wrap up this edition of the College Football Catch-Up. We'll have more next week, breaking down, how everything falls. We're going to see who Tennessee has, what the matchups we have to look forward to are.
And if we get to go to Neyland one more time.
That's what we're hoping for. We want one more trip up to Knoxville, a nice 2-hour drive. Get us ready. All right.
Go Horns. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. That's how we're going to end this one. See you next week.